And we're live. Hello, welcome everyone. Hi, Tim.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. My name is Danielle Stein-Fairhurst. I run a financial modelling consultancy here in Sydney, in Australia. I have been running these online webinars or virtual meetups for a couple of months now, and we used to run these sessions as face-to-face meetups for financial modelers in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, but we have been doing them all virtually, which makes it such a fantastic opportunity to hear from financial modelling specialists all over the world, which is really, really exciting. So we've got Tim is the CEO and founder of the Corporate Finance Institute, and he is joining us from Vancouver. So it's lunchtime here in Sydney. What time is it there for you, Tim?
It's my evening, 7:30. So just had dinner, early dinner. So pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. So we have a chat panel. If you're joining us on Zoom, we are also streaming live on YouTube, but if you're joining us on Zoom, there is a chat panel and you should be able to make any comments. So make sure that you make those comments to all the participants so that everybody who is in this session is going to be able to see your comments. So we've got one from Amin saying that Tim is awesome. I definitely agree. So feel free. This is not a webinar, it's an interactive, participative meetup. So I'd like you guys to put in your comments or your questions or your things that you'd like to talk about. There's also a Q&A section. So there's two ways that you can interact with us today. You can either, if you have questions that you'd like for Tim to answer, like, detailed questions, you can do that in the Q&A. If it's just a comment or something you'd like to tell everyone on the call, then you can do that in the chat. Make sure that it's for everyone, not just the panelists. So I'm going to hand over to you, Tim. So you're going to be telling us all about the pitch deck today.
Yeah, that's right. Sure. So I'll present my screen here, and we can use that as a bit of a guide of the presentation that I've got. Let me just open it up. So you can see my screen, I assume?
Yes, we can see your PowerPoint.
Okay, perfect. Let me just go to the first slide. So I'm excited to have this talk.
Yeah, and I'll jump in with any questions or comments that people have got, so feel free.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Danielle. So excited to be talking to you about pitch decks. I know this is a financial modeling group, so I think it's an interesting place to take the conversation, since we all spend so much time building models. Ultimately those models usually flow into a presentation or a pitch deck. So I think it's a really good thing to focus on. Here is the poll. I think you can all see, right, Danielle?
I just shared a poll.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I just shared a poll there. So just like to get an idea of who we've got on here and what kind of things you're interested in learning about.
Awesome.
So we'll just give it a minute. So if you're joining us live, just place your vote. It is anonymous, just to give Tim an idea of who we've got here and what kind of pitch decks you're most interested in learning about. So I'm going to close that poll in a sec and share it so that everybody will be able to see it.
Sure. So why don't I just start with some slides, Danielle? How does that sound? Okay, so here we go. We see, I guess it is pretty close between corporate finance and raising money for startups, although startups just wins. Okay, so good. We're going to cover both. So it's good to know that it's a close tie between the two. So as Danielle mentioned, I'm a co-founder of CFI, and our mission is to help anyone become a world-class financial analyst. And I'll give you a little bit of an overview of CFI by the numbers here with this next slide. And there seems to be a bit of a delay in changing the slides. I don't know, Danielle, if you have any tips on that. Seems to, there we go, it's moving.
Yeah, it's just probably the streaming. Yeah.
Okay, so just a quick overview of CFI before I jump in. We currently have about 700,000 registered students, a website that gets 5 million visitors a month. We have 3 certification programs now. One is on financial modeling, one is on credit analysis, and the third one is related to capital markets. Those 3 programs combined have 5,000 lessons that are all searchable. So you can take them as a program, or you can just use them as a resource and sort of search your way through content. And our team, including contractors, is about 40 people. So that's the high-level overview of CFI. But let's talk about why presentations matter. Why is this even a topic? Well, we are influenced by aesthetics and design. We're not simply robots that process numbers. We're actually influenced by the sort of art and the soft side of presentations, if you will. And also presentations matter because different audiences need different types of information. You may be presenting live to a group, you may be sending out a document over email, you could be presenting to a client or to an investor. So you need to know your audience, and you need to have a good flow and a structure so that you can tell a story. That's also critical. So these are the 3 reasons why we care about presentations. And as the poll asked you of whether you were more interested in a pitch deck for a client, like in investment banking, or say to raise money for a startup, we're going to talk about both here, and you'll see that they can be quite different, in fact. So Danielle, feel free to jump in if there's any comments at this point, but otherwise I'll keep going.
Will do.
Okay, so just some general points that would apply to all types of presentations. Style does matter a lot. As I said before, we are influenced by how professional something looks. So you want to be aware of the white space. You don't want to have too much or too little. You always use your branded colors for your company and your branded fonts. Alignment and symmetry is critical. You can use the tools in PowerPoint to make sure things are always perfectly spaced out and aligned. You can use visual cues to help deliver a message, such as highlighting a certain box or using an arrow to point to something. And then you can also use headings and framing to help illustrate points. And all of these will be demonstrated in the slides that are coming up. A comment on structure: you do want a presentation to always be extremely well organized, easy to follow, and you can probably hear one of my dogs in the background. So your user can stay engaged, and you can make a clear point about what you're trying to deliver. So structure is critical. You might want to use a timeline to help with structure. A timeline is sort of a legend on each slide that shows you where you are in the roadmap. So are you in section A, B, C, or D? And you can follow an argument through to a logical conclusion. So I do always recommend using a timeline where possible. So those are a few key style points. So I'm going to jump right into the pitch book, show you an example of it, and then I'll look at Excel and show you what would be backing this up. Because as a financial analyst, you're spending a lot of your time in Excel building these models, conducting analysis, and then you're going to transition it to the pitch book.
That's great. I think it's really important what you said about making sure it aligns with your branding, because you spend so much time on the financial model. It's really important to give it the credibility that it deserves with the pitch book.
Yeah, I definitely recommend putting as much polish on it as you can, and as much branding effort as you can. So. And
your branding, usually most companies have a branding template, don't they, that can help you with that?
Yeah, you can create a PowerPoint set of master slides that have your branding already incorporated. That's something we have that we use. Yeah. So with a pitch book, the purpose of this pitch book is often to present an idea to a client. So, imagine you're an investment banker, your client is a public company, and they want to look at some acquisition opportunities. Let's just say that's the scenario. So you're going to be presenting opportunities to them. You want to give them something that's super organized and easy to follow. So you probably have a table of contents like this, where you're looking at different sections that you're gonna have slides on and walk through. Now with a presentation like this, it might typically be quite long, actually. Like, it could be 50 or 100 slides, and you're probably not going to walk through all of them with the client together. You're going to have either a printed version of it or a digital copy sent around, and the client may read through the detail on their own. But when you're presenting live to them, you might just pick a few key slides that you want to talk about.
Actually, can I ask a question? Just do you normally, and I'm not sure if you're going to cover this, but I often find what you present in a meeting is very different to what you give to them afterwards. Do you normally have two copies of that, or do you just present the same thing?
No, exactly the point you're making. It's a great point that you're not going to walk through this together with them in person. It would be excruciatingly long and way too much detail. But no, from what I've typically seen, it's the same document. It's just that you give them a copy of the full document, and when you're together, you may say, okay, let's flip to slide 8, and then let's flip to slide 25 or what have you.
Yeah, good point.
So you're going to have an executive summary, no real financial modeling work required here. You're really just setting the stage of why you're taking up their time, what you're going to present to them, and what the outcome or next steps should be. You'll often see a company or industry overview section at the beginning of a pitch book. This is where there is some real financial analysis. So you can see here we've got a share price chart for a company relative to an index. We've got some key valuation statistics, such as market capitalization, price to earnings ratio, things like that. And then there's some financial metrics for the company, like say its revenue mix, and some industry data as well. So we're starting to now be pasting in charts and graphs from Excel, and I'll flip over to the Excel file later that supports this. You might have then some detailed breakdown of this company's business units, such as different segments or different geographies, different lines of business, what have you. Again, that would feed from an Excel file, and that you'd then paste into the actual presentation here.
Do you normally link it, or do you just paste it in as a picture?
Yeah, it's a great question, because I definitely see people using linking, but I would say my preference and what I see more commonly is pasting it in and keeping everything in one Excel file.
Yeah.
And going through and pasting. It may seem silly to paste images of things, but I actually find it's easier to keep version control, because the problem is if it's live linked and you say you change something in Excel file but you didn't want the PowerPoint to change, there's always a risk. And every time you're opening it up, it could be changing. Whereas when it's images, this presentation is preserved, like version 1.2 is preserved forever. So I think that's why I would lean towards pasting it as images.
And it can really slow down, like the file can get, if you've got 100 slides, it can get really, really big and slow.
Yeah, that's a great point too then, if they're all live linked, yeah. So I'm just trying to give you a sense of these types of slides that you'd be presenting to a client in investment banking pitch, right? So you want to show them that you understand the company. That's why you're telling them about their own company, but you're just really demonstrating knowledge. And then you're demonstrating knowledge about the industry too. So you're going to have like this industry overview section. You talk about all the competitors, what their strategies are, and just, again, demonstrate a very solid understanding of that industry. So you're going to want to have charts and graphs showing, various players in the market, statistics, things like that that you're going to add in here. So I'm just giving you a flavor of that. And then you move into the valuation section, which is where there's a lot more financial modeling work. So in the valuation section, you are going to probably have a valuation summary like this, where if it's a public company, you'd have their share price chart relative to some competitors or relative to some index coming from the Excel file. This top right corner here, the valuation football field, is a summary of different valuation methods that you could use to value the company. And you're showing them a range of values, I guess, for what the company would be worth. And you may include down here equity research coverage of the company, showing what the street or financial analysts think of the company. So you're going to paste in a lot of stuff here from Excel. And here is, the ever popular comps table, sometimes called market multiples, comparables analysis. There's a few different terms for it. I call it comps usually, where you're looking at public companies. You're looking at their stock price and their firm value relative to some financial metrics like their revenue or their EBITDA or their earnings. And you're seeing how the company that you're analyzing compares to those averages. So this is usually a big piece of analysis, and you're going to grab it from your Excel file and paste it into the model here, so they get a sense of how they stack up relative to the industry. And then if you want to get into the actual recommendations that you had for them, you may have this section here where you're talking about recommendation 1 is to do this, and recommendation 2 is to acquire this company, and so on. And then you may have the subsequent slides where you actually provide, more strategic rationale on why you would recommend those things. So
just have a question,
yep.
Tim, from Marcus about where do you get the industry information about the competitors? So do you have any tips for how to do some sort of competitor analysis?
Well, it depends what you have access to. Now, if you're employed at a bank or a large institution, you'd probably have access to Capital IQ, Bloomberg, PitchBook, or some other data providers where you would be able to get all of that information. If you don't have access to any of those really expensive financial tools, you could use Google Finance, Yahoo Finance, and you can read the company. If it's a public company and you read their 10K or their annual report or whatever, they may talk about some competitors in there, and you may get some ideas about competitors. But usually you'd be using Capital IQ or Bloomberg.
Helena wanted to know about the presentation or the pack that you're presenting. I know that we're going to send out this presentation to everybody after the session, but do you have any kind of templates I know the CFI's got some amazing tutorials and things available for download, but do you have any pitch deck templates that you can make available?
I think we do. Yeah, I think we have a free pitch deck template. So I'll send that over to you, Danielle, and you can include it in the follow-up. How does that sound?
Right, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So happy to give a template. Yeah. All right. So then you may have, like, at the end, sort of a bit of a pitch on the company, that you're at. So you might highlight the team members on your team at the bank, and then you may also highlight past deals that you've worked on. They call these tombstones sometimes. So just all the deals in the industry you've worked on that are relevant. So you're really highlighting your experience. So that is like a super fast overview of a type of advisory pitch book, where you're taking your financial model, which includes a bunch of analysis on a company and the other players in the industry, and then you're putting that into the presentation for the client. And I'll flip to the Excel file shortly here. So unless there's any other questions at this point, Danielle, why don't I do an overview of the startup or fundraising type of pitch, and then we'll go to Excel.
Sounds good, thanks.
Okay, so this one, oh, speaking of templates, so Danielle, I don't know if people can click on this link through what's being shared, probably not, but this is a template that I took from Sequoia Capital that they have made available on their website. They call it a business plan. The article is called business plan, but it's really a pitch outline. Sequoia is a pretty famous firm that's invested in, you can see the logos here, you know, some pretty massively successful businesses, and they have a great template and a great formula for how you can create a very simple pitch to raise money. So
right, I'm just going to pop that into the chat so people have got the link.
Yeah, perfect. So they basically break it down into 10 pieces, whether it's one slide per piece, or maybe it's a couple of slides per each of these pieces. That might be up to you, but this sort of formula, if you will, I've also used myself, and I think it works really well. You're gonna essentially open up straight away with your mission or your purpose, like why does your company exist? And then I love this part, problem and solution. Like, you want to first talk about what's the problem that you're trying to solve, what's the pain point or the issue, and then how do you make people's lives better, essentially, with your solution. You might want to talk about the timing, like why is it a good time? Why will you be successful when maybe other people haven't? Then you go in to look at the market. How big could this opportunity be? Who's already there in terms of competition or alternatives? Then you would outline your business model. So what's your strategy? How do you actually plan to make money in that market? What would your pricing be? You know, what kind of volume would you need to really be successful and all that? And then you may highlight your team, some financials. This is where the model comes in again. So you'll notice in this pitch book, it's actually quite light on financial analysis. It's really only maybe the market section and the financial section here, where you'll be drawing on Excel a lot, and then you might have like a long-term vision or long-term outlook as well. So what I've done then is I've taken a few slides from a presentation that we have for CFI, not all 10 of these, but just a few of them to give you a sense of what some of these would be like. So for us at CFI, our mission is to help anyone become a world-class financial analyst. And to do that, we've got tools, templates, courses, certification, community, career center, and so on, to help anyone become a world-class financial analyst. In terms of the problem that we're trying to solve, I mean, we believe that the existing way of becoming a world-class financial analyst is quite challenging. Universities are too theoretical. Existing certification programs are not necessarily focused on practical applications. They may be focused more on portfolio management, for example, than actual financial analysis. Teaching yourself is almost impossible. I don't think you could do it on YouTube alone. And then on-the-job training was a chicken and the egg problem, really, to get on-the-job training. So none of these, in my opinion, really get you to where you need to be. So what is our solution? What is CFI's solution to that problem? Well, we've created courses that are practical, easy to understand, engaging, relevant, quick to complete, affordable to purchase, all online, and so on. So that's kind of like our business solution, if you will, to that problem. So as you can see, there's no financial model here yet, right? None of this requires modeling. This is all like sales pitch stuff. Then maybe you're getting into a bit of a model here where you're talking about the market, where you may actually have to calculate some stuff. So we're saying, you know, it doesn't really matter how big the market is as long as it's just big enough to matter. So, you know, maybe it's a 10 or $20 billion market, I'm not sure, but you could look at it different ways. You could estimate that maybe there's 25 to 50 million finance professionals around the world. You know, I think the US has close to 10 million alone. So if each of those people are willing to invest a certain amount of money per year, you know, maybe you're talking about a 10 or $20 billion market. Or if you go top down, some sources have pointed out that maybe self-study e-learning across all industries and across all types of clients is 90 billion. And we know that finance or accounting kind of represents 10 to 20% of the job market. So again, that's kind of 10 to 20 billion. So you may have a file or a model that supports some type of market size analysis. And I'm kind of skipping over a bunch of sections in that formula. But the next thing I would show you, and these are not our numbers, but you would then have a financial section where you might show the number of users that you've got. You know, you might show an average order value per user, total revenue, operating profit here. And then, you know, for a startup, the cash flow and cash burn piece is going to be extremely important. You know, how much money do you need essentially to see you through? And when would you be self-funding? Is there a point at which, you know, you don't need capital any longer and you can self-fund? Those are probably some critical things to show to investors. And so you're going to have your model to support those things. So yeah, so that's it. I didn't do all 10 of those. So I'm just going to flip back to the table of contents, but I don't think I really need to, because I think you can go get this template yourself and fill in all the dots if this is something that you're looking at doing for yourself.
Yeah, that's great. It just gives us a bit of an idea of what kind of things you need to think about and what goes into the pitch book. Yeah, no, that's good overview. Thank you.
So why don't I open up Excel now?
The moment we've all been waiting for. Excellent.
Yeah, right. Everyone's probably been nervous just not being in Excel.
Yeah. We get a little bit antsy when we don't see the grid lines, you know.
Yeah. Actually, I always remove grid lines.
Me too.
Okay, so what I'll show you here is several tabs in this spreadsheet that correspond to the charts and graphs that you'd seen before. So you'll see here that we had a company share price chart in the pitch book, and you'll see that it's linked to this data here, which we probably got from Bloomberg or Capital IQ. But if you didn't have access to Bloomberg or Capital IQ, you can export from Yahoo Finance and Google Finance. I think you can even get live financial data now in Excel through, you might know this better than me, but I think you can now pull share price information into Excel just with a formula. So you could have that set up here. Then you've got this table here. This is the table that you're going to paste in, where you're looking at, say, the company's segmented revenue, growth rates, and things like that. And you'll notice that it's been formatted specifically for the presentation. So you'll see that there's alternating shading going on to help distinguish the rows. And there's not grid lines that are shown everywhere. There's just grid lines shown on these columns. So whatever formatting works for you or for your company. We've got this share ownership chart showing who the biggest shareholders are in the company. Right, here's our, this looks like a profile of capital expenditures. You'll see here the pie charts, this is a stacked column chart.
So this is all the sort of background and number crunching that you would have done to come up with the charts that went into your pitch deck, yeah?
Exactly, yeah. So to the extent you can keep this.
Yeah, it's so important to keep that, isn't it? Because, when someone queries something later, it's really important to be able to trace back and work out exactly where those numbers came from.
Exactly. When you're doing it under time pressure, being organized is critical. So the way we've laid these out is actually that it follows the presentation. So if you're making changes last minute, late at night, you don't want to be fumbling around trying to find the source data. You can see here we made an annotated share price chart. So you've got all these comments about events that have happened during the company's history. This is the football field, or a version of a football field, where we're summarizing.
Sorry, those lines that you did, they're just shapes, aren't they? You didn't do anything clever with the charts.
Yeah, back here on this one.
You just did little lines.
That's right. Yeah, they're just so this is just a text box that's inserted here, and then this is just a line that's inserted as well. Yeah.
Nice.
So it is just a simple line chart, but it looks quite fancy because we layered some stuff on. It's very easy to, if you wanted to do it yourself, you would just go into insert and you would insert shape. Here you go. You can add another one, right? So that's something you can always design yourself. The football field chart. This is the. And
same with that line. Then was that a line as well? Was that the football field?
Yeah, this one here. Yeah, this is just we just turned it into a dotted line, a dashed line, I should say. Yeah. So here's the table that gets pasted in. This is for the comparable company analysis. Right? Another thing that you'll notice is everything in here is colored black, with black font. But I have to point this out because we always comment about best practices for hard-coded numbers. Typically being something other than black in a model, so people know what's hard-coded here and what's a formula. Except the only exception though is if you're pasting it into a presentation, you probably want it all to be the same font color, all to be black, so that it just looks really professional and really polished. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of standard. Yeah, so it's for presentation purposes, not for modeling purposes. So there's, I think, a bit of a difference in how you, in a working model, you would follow that input convention, but for presentation, perhaps not. Good point.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you going to show us the with the X how you did the little custom thing, the custom format with the X at the end? People may not have seen that before.
Oh, sure, yeah. Like here with the actually, this isn't custom formatted here, but I can show you how to do it. You mean like where it has the A at the end? Oh, you mean
with the X
here? Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So here, if I press Control 1, right? So I just do. I'll try to do.
Showing us a nice little shortcut in there. Good one.
Keyboard shortcuts here. If I press Control 1, it brings up format cells. So this is a custom type. Now let's just say it started off as a general number here. Let's go that way. It would be general or number or something. I'm going to go to custom instead, and I'm just going to type in, if I wanted to have one decimal place, I'll put 0.0x, press OK, and then I have that X at the end. So it's not reading the X as part of the number, it's just formatting over top.
I think it's really important because when they calculate, because then it'll still calculate, because if you go in and type the X in, it just messes up all the calculations.
Yes, exactly. And same with the years too, although I noticed that this actually says 2016A, but I personally would say it's better to make this something like that, so that this is actually a number too. So you can see how to do that. You've got a set of precedent transactions here, so just another table really that you're pasting in. And I think that's it. Nope, there's one more. So you've got this other double column chart here. And yeah, I mean, if you want, there's one more I can jump in. If you like looking at more Excel files, I don't know.
Oh no, it's yeah, no, everybody's really loving these tips and shortcuts and things. It's great. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, let me know if you want any other ones. this one here, this might be interesting to look at. I'll go up to the top here because there's a few things going on here. So we've used grouping here. So this model, in this tab here, the DCF model, we've used grouping to help keep things really organized. So you've got this model that has a set of assumptions that drive it, a set of financial statements, and then you've got your valuation model and your charts and graphs that go in the presentation at the bottom. So it's always, if they're in their own section like this, it's very easy to come grab these charts and graphs and put them into your presentation, or just go to any section of the model for that matter, like the balance sheet here, and look at the information there. So I don't know for your user base if it's helpful, but to do this, you go to the data ribbon. I would do it with shortcuts personally, but I'm on my laptop, which is not always the easiest. And then you group. So once you group them, you see they're there. I would always do that instead of hiding them. I would not.
Yeah, I think it's really important to make that. Yeah, to show that so they can see the hiding. It's really important rather than just hiding it and then you miss out. You might not realize that there's hidden cells in there. Grouping.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So here's just another example of how you'd want to keep some analysis nicely organized, create your charts and graphs, and then you copy these and paste them in. Now I'll show you. Let's actually do this. So I'm gonna copy it here. Just Control C, and I'll go back to presentation. I'll just make a new slide here. Delete that. So you want it when you paste it. I did my shortcuts Alt ES, which is like for edit paste special.
Alt. Sorry, what did you say? Alt ES.
Yeah, this is old. This is from old.
Oh yeah.
Older times with,
with
Office, because like there's no more edit. There's no more edit, but you could also go under. Now where is it in this new ribbon? I'm so used to the old shortcut that you would basically paste here. So paste under home, you would go paste special. Did you see that? So you could also do Alt H V S. But Alt ES is faster than Alt H V S. So now what you might do is pick a picture type. So I think PNG or enhanced Metaphile typically produce the highest quality. But you can see now that since I pasted this in as an image, it's not going to change, which is actually a good thing. It may sound weird to say that I don't want it dynamically linked, but I kind of don't want it dynamically linked. So I would do that. And then, what else I would typically do is I would typically try to frame up anything with a title. So so what I would do, I'm just putting this here, and then I would format this to whatever my sort of brand guidelines are, maybe with a white font. Okay, and then this makes it easy when you want to put, say, four things on a slide. You can now have each one with a title over it, and it's really easy for people to follow what's on the slide. So
the block is visually quite nice. One of the things I think is really important, I don't know if this has happened to you, Tim, but when you just paste something in and it just embeds it as a chart, and it just all the data is behind it, so people can actually get in and see all your details. So you don't want that to happen. And the other thing that can happen if you don't paste it as a picture is that the colors will change to the color scheme. It can change between the documents, so that's another reason to paste picture.
Yeah, that's a great point. So what you don't want to do is if you just copy like this and just press Control V. Now you see already it got a little bit messed up, even within my own files like the. Yeah, so it doesn't look quite as good as this version, and not only that, but you can actually edit it, which is not necessary. Like I can actually go in and edit the data, which is not necessarily ideal.
Yeah, and then you can see all your data behind, which perhaps you don't want that to happen. Might be some confidential things you don't want people to see.
Yes. So, yep. So I would just that's why I always paste as an image.
So we have a question from Carlos. How do you manage it if there's many people working in a document at the same time? Well, yeah. I'll let you answer that, Tim.
Okay, so what I've seen is you usually dividing and conquering. Okay, so like let's say there's 2 or 3 analysts or an analyst and associate or group working on this presentation, and let's say there's a lot of updates to make here. You know, I might take slides 1 through 10, and someone else might take 11 through 20, and we would actually work in separate versions then, separate copies. Yeah, so you basically cut sections out, save them as a new version, and then you'd bring them all back into the master. If you're using Google Docs or Google Sheets or something that's designed for collaboration, of course you can, and I don't know about Google's presentation application. I don't know if you can use it like Google Docs and Google Sheets where you can collaborate and actually work at the same time. But if you're using PowerPoint, you can't work at the same time, so you have to divide and conquer, and same with Excel too.
Oh, so it's not like Excel Online where you can, but multiple people can be working at the same time?
Yeah, so you could do that, although it's probably kind of dangerous for something like a financial model, but yeah, so I would say divide and conquer when you need multiple people working on something.
Okay, so Gurpreet says that MS365 does allow you to collaborate, and Joshua says that Google Slides is fully collaborative, but Gurpreet says the divide and conquer strategy sounds like a good idea. There's another question from Askar. The example here is for service industry, mostly IT, and how would you present it with tangible products? I wouldn't imagine that it would be much different in terms of different between industries. Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried to make this fairly generic. So I guess if it came across as being services oriented versus product oriented, I didn't mean for it to be too much so. The industry section is going to be very specific, of course, in terms of the metrics. Like if it's the mining industry versus the technology industry, totally different. But I don't think that really changes the structure of a pitch book. I don't think it really changes the types of slides you show, the types of analysis you do. It's just tailored to an industry. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but.
I think so. Samin would like to know if we have a sample pitch deck for startups who are pre-revenue. It's fairly specific.
Well, I would take the same one. I would take it from Sequoia. Like basically, what if it was pre-revenue? What I would do is instead of financials, I would have assuming this startup is pre-revenue but post something, whatever you've got, you'll show. So if you've got users, you'll show user growth. Or if you don't have users but you've got website traffic, you show website traffic growth. If you don't even have website traffic and you don't have users, you don't have anything, you might be too early. But or you may just be pitching an idea essentially at that point. But you don't have to have revenue to follow this 10 point presentation.
And I imagine, like any financial model, it's always customized to a certain extent. Everything's always got to be bespoke for the particular situation.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we have a question from Mark. He says, when you paste the graph or table, is it better to do it as a Metaphile rather than the PNG or JPEG? There's not a huge difference, is there?
Yeah. I mean, this is an excellent analyst question, right? Like I think I used Metaphile more in my analyst days. I don't know why. I think we determined as analysts that it was the best, but I don't know why anymore. I don't do it very often anymore. But do you know, Danielle?
No, I generally just use JPEG, but I haven't tested. Yeah, so I usually go in, and if it's too, if the quality is not enough, it goes highest quality as you can, unless the file is too big, and then you can bring it down. So
I mean, here's enhanced Metaphile. Here's PNG. I think JPEG and GIF are lower, but you know, I don't know. You might only notice if you try to zoom. These are holding up pretty well. I don't know.
Yeah, they look quite good.
But you can see, I think the JPEG is noticeably, yeah, this is the JPEG here. I think it's noticeably more pixelated than the Metaphile. But anyway, I don't know any more than that.
Yeah. That's great, thanks.
Any other questions coming in, Danielle?
Oh, we just had one from Riz1 saying, any open source resources for self-learning? Yes, we will send through some links for some tutorials and things, absolutely. Can you share where we can find different types of models to review and recreate to practice? Yes, we will share some links for that. Yeah, that's all for now, I think.
Okay, and Danielle, were you able to share the link to the Sequoia one? Just in case, I think I saw someone was asking about.
Yeah, let me find. Jason had shared the.
Let me tell you what you can do. Just Google
a link there, so I might just drop that one in as well.
Yeah, if you Google like Sequoia Cap, pitch book, pitch deck, or business plan or something like that, it'll come up.
We have a question from Samin that I don't quite follow. Samin says, can you show projections as forward-looking statements? Not really sure what's meant by that. I mean, projections, yeah, you would always sort of show what the actuals are and then the projections.
Yeah, projections would be for, you know, that, to use the line again, you know, what actually I like to do a lot of times is like, you know, do this. So you've got your historical to the left and your forecast or your projections to the right.
Yeah, looks good. Yeah, Mark says the investor presentations is a hot topic. Very informative and handy, absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, so did you have any, if there were any other questions, or was there anything else you needed to cover, Tim?
No, I mean, it's a whirlwind to go through both of these in less than an hour, but I'm happy to share more resources with everyone. So I'll be sending you, Danielle, whatever I can dig up in terms of free templates, free files, or other resources that people can learn from.
So as soon as we say that we are just about finishing up, all the questions come in now. So Matt says that the question about projections as perhaps a legal one. What can you include in the presentation when looking at the projections? I think that sort of come up. Sorry, I'll let you answer it, Tim. I would have thought it was more about the assumptions that go into it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the forward, like a safe harbor statement.
I think that's what.
Yeah, so I would include a safe harbor statement about forward-looking statements, sure, and I would even put some extra whatever disclaimers like.
Absolutely, yes.
But it also really depends on if you're talking about private or public, right? Like if you're a private company, there's no market for your securities, and like I think it's I think you're a lot safer than if you're a public company where there is SEC regulation and so on if you're in the US, but I would always err on the side of caution.
Yes, I mean, documentation of assumptions and saying where the numbers came from, source referencing is I think always very important. Pat just asks, do you use a color to highlight any specific information to draw attention to it?
Yep, I would. I'm not sure I would use the highlight function,
No,
honest.
I think it's just.
But what I would do, I like arrows a lot. So, and boxes. So if you wanted to highlight here, the EV to sales ratio as a point of interest, I might say like, and you can even type comments in these, like, or I would insert a box, or say I wanted to highlight specifically this one here. I would just do that.
And that's what's great about doing it over the PowerPoint afterwards, rather than it necessarily being in Excel.
Oh yeah, exactly. Once it's pasted as an image, and then you can just do this quite easily.
I just on color, I think I do a lot of stuff as well, and I think it's really important to make sure that your colors are consistent. So if you have like one particular color that you want everybody's attention to be drawn to repeat the same color, to always, because Excel doesn't do a very good job of that, does it? It just sort of randomly allocates these colors, and I think it's important to always make sure that the colors have meaning, and that you stick to your branding as well.
Yes, definitely. I would do that here too, if I had time.
Okay, so we have a question from YouTube actually. Whoops, it's just disappeared. If you're being introduced to the industry and have some experience in Excel, is the CFI going to help you to become a freelancer in financial modeling? Yes, I'm sure it would.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm biased, of course, so it's hard for me to answer. But like the program that we put together will teach you essentially from A to Z, the full suite of financial analyst skills, from gathering information to putting it in Excel to analyzing it and then presenting it, in a presentation like this. So I guess I would say yes.
Yeah, there's some fantastic resources available online, and CFI certainly has some great tutorials. If you Google how to do something in investment banking or corporate finance, you will no doubt end up on their site, and there's some really good examples and things that you can download.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that. I know we have we pretty much run out of time. I know we didn't quite get to all of the questions, but I'm sure that Tim will be happy to speak to you afterwards. I'll send an email out this afternoon, hopefully, if not tomorrow, with a link to the recording and all of these files and things that Tim has very generously made available to us. So thank you so much, Tim. I'm very much looking forward to next week. We've got some really exciting things coming up. Next week, we're actually doing a debate. It's a little bit similar to this one in that we're talking about the way that you take numbers and present those. So we're actually going to do a debate with a couple of different people. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've got some really interesting things planned. So yeah, was there anything you'd like to mention before we sign off, Tim?
No, but I'd just like to thank you again for having me. It's been a pleasure. I hope people have enjoyed it, and I look forward to sharing more resources with everyone.
All right, we are going to sign off now and see you again next week. See you later, Tim.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.